For all of you out there, you're probably familiar with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, two crowdfunding platforms. The fulfillment industry has grown tremendously for that reason. The
Right.
e-commerce side of it, there's so many products coming to market through Kickstarter and Indiegogo that you needed a place to house the product and ship it out. And again, because there are so many companies now in this space, what does that mean? It means that it's extremely competitive. For you, the rates are going to be good. Again, you have to have it in a fulfillment company because you don't want to be going to your garage and shipping product out every day and trying to keep track of it. That's not how, I mean, you might save a couple pennies that way, but.
Well, welcome to another 52 Launch podcast. I'm Peter Drankolich.
Dan Gagne.
And today we're going to talk a little bit off subject, but on point very strongly. We had a client, Lisa, and thank you very much for sending all these questions. Lisa is one of our new clients, and she just really had a great series of questions that I think every entrepreneur should ask and learn and, develop this thought process. So today we're going to go through her questions and basically answer them for everybody to hear.
Yeah, I think the reason we're sharing this with everybody out there is that, look, we were impressed with Lisa and her husband when they first met us and talked about their idea. We're even more impressed today because of the amount of time she spent getting prepared to ask the right questions. And, we really, really appreciate it. We'd like to think that we would have thought of these questions, but, you don't do that. I mean,
I think we live these questions, right? So we don't ask them. We just this is part of what we do on a daily basis. So I really appreciated the fact that she was able to isolate and identify some of the key questions from her side that we probably thought about 5 years ago, but have been just so enthralled with doing it that we've not forgotten it, but it's just part of our daily routine. And,
exactly.
But again, this is where it starts, right? This is the fabric of becoming an entrepreneur. And I think that's really what it is. It's talking about not just being an inventor, but an inventor asks the questions about what it takes to become an entrepreneur.
Right.
And that to me is key because, again, if you're going to put any effort into bringing a product to market, it's two sides of that coin. It's getting it to market is one thing, but becoming an entrepreneur and being successful with it is just, it takes this mindset. So
exactly. This is we always talk about, 1% is the idea and 99% is the execution. Yeah. Well, in Lisa's case,
this is the 99%.
Yeah, she's got the 99% she's asking about, and it's just really smart of her to take the time to do the due diligence and write down the questions that she has so she can make an intelligent decision whether to hire us or not.
Right.
Ultimately, again, I think that every client that potentially wants to hire us needs to ask these questions as well. So we're actually sharing them with everybody out there, and that way, we'll answer the questions hopefully before you have to ask them.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with, we're going to roll down each question. We're going to time this to 45 minutes. And if we have to do this as a part two, we'll do it as a part two. So the first question she asked, and it again related to production and manufacturing, is how much control will I have over the design of a product? That's a fantastic question because let's talk about design houses, right? They're going to design something for you. They're going to give you one or two iterations and that's it. You take it or leave it, and you don't have that much control over your design.
Well, they'll do more than one or two. They'll just charge you
a
lot of money after you get through the one or two. So,
right.
Yeah. So now we already told Lisa this, but again, complete control essentially of your design. Obviously, we want to make sure that we design it within the constraints of the manufacturer's ability. Again, each manufacturer has a little bit better ability or more different ability is a better word. Again, we try to stay within that area because of what costs. We want to make sure that we come in at a very, very competitive price because at the end of the day, that's what we need to have. And that's the reason you're hiring us.
Exactly. And I'm just going to talk about mindset here again. Just when the fact that there's control, which I will say there's a spectrum, right? There's people who want to make the final decision and say this is why it works, and then there's people who are control freaks that want to control every aspect of the design, and so there's that balance, right? If you listen to the manufacturer, you're going to end up with a better, more cost-effective product. But I think in our context, look at our best relationships are we need the inventor to basically tell us all the things that they've learned, right? There's things that they have thought of for years upon years. And, like the other day, I asked a client a question. I'm like, how come you didn't do it this way? And guess what? There was a whole litany of reasons why the way I thought might be easier actually turned out not to be a better way to do it. So it's the two experiences that need to come together. Your experience as the inventor to say, this is what I know the consumers or I need in myself to solve this problem. And I need your expertise now, meaning the 52 launch team, to help me manufacture this cost effectively, make it look good, and turn it into a product that can be sold overnight, all day long, in repetitive. I love this product where it becomes its own entity.
Right. And also keep in mind that the inventor, you guys out there, you've had this idea probably in the back of your mind or on a piece of paper, or even some have gotten prototypes at this point. You've had this concept for months, if not years.
Right.
I mean, we have clients that hire us 7 years after they've invented a product. And I say 7 because that seems to be the number.
Yeah.
We have a lot of clients that are like that. But again, at the end of the day, we have to catch up. And it only takes us a few weeks, believe it or not, to catch up. And the reason is because we have, 50 years of manufacturing experience. And we pretty much have manufactured everything in each
Correct.
vertical space. So, we want our team to catch up to you.
And so the question really is, how much control do you have over the design of your product? You have full control. With our team, we're here to add our expertise to help guide you make the better decision and make a better product. But at the end of the day, if we don't move forward unless you've signed off on the design of your product.
Right. Which it goes to the next question.
Yeah.
How much back and forth will there be on tweaking my original idea and coming up with the final product? And
well,
again,
if we were smart, we'd say 2.
Yeah.
But, again, our focus isn't about getting your product designed for you. Our product is how your product's going to sell into the market. And so if we don't get it right on the second shot, do we stop?
No, of course not.
Or if we find something out, and it really isn't that we don't get it right on the second shot, what we usually find on the second or third is there's an important improvement or a detrimental thing that no one realized until you put it physically in your hand or tried something. And again, this is why we use the 3D print technology. That's why we use CAD models. We do all these things before we even engage a manufacturer. And even then, the manufacturer, we recommend their feedback, and that's part of our DFM process. So between the client, between us, between the DFM, there is so many iterations.
DFN stands for design for manufacturer.
Yeah. And so that is just a process that means that you are having a conversation with all parties, the experts in their field. Everyone stays in their lane. At the end of the day, you're making the decision on how it's going to finalize, and we're just going to keep iterating. Because again, going to market with a bad product, that's the kiss of death, right?
Absolutely.
If you have a product that's good, and people love it, that's such an essential need in today's market.
And conversely, going to market with the perfect product, there is no such thing.
There's no such thing.
So your product's never going to be perfect because there's always going to be someone that says, "Oh, I wish it were this color," or "I wish you had it in this style." So it's the reason why there's new and improved and more iterations down the road. So the only person that knows it's not perfect is generally the entrepreneur,
the small group of us,
and us, because we've been told that it's not. But again, it's more important to get to market, get to revenue, and we can iterate as we go. We should always be iterating. Each time there's a new order, there should be something that we changed and made better.
Well, and so I'll speak to that, because you're right. Iteration, once you go to market and you start selling, I think that's got to be the key focus, is that you've got to get to sales as quick as you can. So get the best product you can to market, then iterate and improve while you're generating revenue. Every business needs to get that revenue generation stage as quick as they can.
Well, every small business. I mean,
Yes.
we would love, I rephrase that. We wouldn't love, because this is not the space that we play in. But if we were dealing with enterprise clients, which means companies that are mid-sized to larger companies, we could take 4 years to come out with a
Right.
product. And that's generally how long it takes for, a product to be launched. We deal with entrepreneurs who are on limited budgets. So it's important for us to get to revenue. We've seen it now for 5 years that it's a grind, and it's frustrating for the client to always be writing checks and not having money come back in. We get it.
Well,
we've
I'll
built our
actually,
own business, and
yeah,
it's frustrating for us to continue to buy this guy next to us his equipment that he needs to put these productions together. And it's an investment for us to do this that we might not see for a year or so. But we do have to write those checks to get the right equipment in here, just as our entrepreneurs have to write checks to get
to
a
get
product here,
exactly.
and start marketing the product. So we understand it. We are frustrated, and that's why we want to get to revenue as quickly as possible, which means we like to get to a product with very little back and forth. I mean, we do expect there to be a few iterations, but and we do have clients that we've got 10 iterations, and we still say yes,
Right.
even though it's frustrating and it just takes a lot longer to get to market.
Well, and look at it, when we feel we jump into that point. I've never, I think you and I have jumped in and had the conversation. And if we feel that, okay, it's valid, we do balance it out because, again, there's a reminder that Dan and I are responsible for to say, hey, let's just make sure we're not over iterating and staying in this cost zone as long as you guys are. We want to get to revenue. And again, if the product's detrimental, I am not for that. We need to get the right product that people are going to love. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can't have a detrimental flaw where it's not working or it doesn't function or it doesn't do what it's supposed to do or it doesn't fit right in your hand or whatever those stupid
Let's
things
redefine perfect, because
Yeah.
I know when people hear that, they're like, what do you mean you don't want it perfect?
Yeah.
I want my product perfect. We're not talking essentially about the quality of the product. We're
Right.
talking more of, it might not have one whistle or one bell that you wanted in it because it was going to take a lot longer to manufacture, or it's going to be more expensive to manufacture, or there could be a number of reasons that we left something behind.
Well, it's normally because of cost, and I'll tell you,
Yeah.
it's from the car business. When you go to the auto show, you see that concept car in the middle of the show, in the middle of the display. That's never the car that rolls out the assembly line, because if you added up all the cost on that car versus the production cost, it's just astronomical. So you get a watered down version of that product.
Every product that comes to us is perfect in a sense of quality.
Right.
It works. It looks great. People are going to love it. They're going to use it. It's just, we use the word perfect, meaning, it might not be exactly what you were envisioning because of cost. And you're right. That's probably the number one thing. Or these days it's, there's a shortage on computer chips because of COVID. And, there might be some things that we have to kind of pull out until that industry restocks and they become more cost effective.
Correct. All right. So the next question was, what are the deadlines for back and forth and changes requests on a product? So great question. Look at our program is 21 weeks. That is, if everything is done perfectly or exactly the way we need it to be done in the first iteration, right? We can get through this process in 21 weeks. Now, there is natural times where a back and forth, it could be because there's something that needs to be solved. If we could predict how quickly we can solve a problem instantly or go through, there's an iteration process to solving problems. And again, if we could solve a problem instantaneously, that means it wasn't a problem, and it means we'd be charging millions of dollars for what we do, because we'd be able to predict the future as far as what problems to avoid and not create. So there's two types of delays. One is, on where it requires time to just get something tested, go through a couple of different theories, make sure, there's an A/B test or something to make sure that we're on the right track. And then the other one, like you said, like this computer chip, right? There's just some natural delays. Shipping right now is a disaster. Global shipping is a disaster. The Suez Canal did not help with COVID and everything else, but every container that was in China is now somewhere else that delivered masks for the last year and a half, and they have not gotten back to the Asian ports. So there's a shortage of containers, which means there's boats waiting. It's not that there's no boats, it's just that there's no containers to put cargo in to put on the boats to ship here. So massive delays. That is an uncontrollable, but that is part of life, and that's part of, guess what? The good news is, on that one, everybody in the world has got the same problem.
Right.
You're not alone. And so, but yeah, look at, for us, I think, we'd like to put deadlines on it. We like to launch, but the deadline has to be realistic, right?
Right. Again, you said it right. Our program's 21 weeks. That's an average. We have clients that take us 50 weeks, and we have clients that we can sometimes get through in 15 weeks. So
Right.
the average is 21 weeks, um, and we're fine with that.
Yeah. All right. So next question was, am I responsible for processing returns and fulfilling manufacturing defects? Kind of a two-stage question there, but
Yeah.
you know, the first one is responsible for returns. You know, again, in our world, we like to go online, so that means you're either in an Amazon facility, an FBA type situation where they are controlling and handling all the returns and all the processing, and it's just part of the function. Or we set you up with one of the fulfillment centers that we have vetted and highly recommend. And again, they have a process for it. Early stage, it's something that's manageable, you know, with a small team. As you grow, the idea is that, you know, you kind of have two choices. You can spend just as much money on returns, or you can spend money just on making a customer happy, right? If there is a defect or a problem, you know, again, even if it's caused by, let's say, the UPS or by the shipping company or someone who's delivering it in that last mile, the right thing to do for a business is just send another one and keep a customer happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just a small percentage. So again, over the course of 5 years, very few products are sent back damaged. You know, it's a small percentage. I don't know exactly what the percent is, but I know it's
in all of our products
under
that we manage.
5%,
Yeah,
maybe even it's 1%.
Yeah,
but it's not been an issue. Our manufacturer
right. Let's speak
stands
to that.
behind all of their production, meaning that on the next order, they will make up for any product that was damaged on the first order. Or any subsequent orders, they'll make it up. Now, what they can't do is ship in 10 pieces
Right.
a couple weeks, you know, after the product was damaged, because they can't set up a facility to manufacture 10 pieces, and I'm sure everybody can understand why.
Yeah, well,
but again,
look at, maybe they don't, because again, this comes down to becoming an entrepreneur, not an inventor. That somewhere down the translation is that, you know, you can't cost effectively send 5 or 6 of something. You know, on the next order we can send 50 to 1,000, whatever that number is. But let's talk about how we prevent or mitigate that as much as we can. Right. In our process, we, you know, use 3D prototyping to make sure that, you know, we eliminate whatever flaws from our position that we can. From that point, we'll manufacture, or we'll work with a manufacturer. And again, we had this conversation this week about the difference between a 3D prototype. When you go to a design house and they are designing or developing something as a pure 3D model without a manufacturer, you know, that's a whole different, that's a model maker, that's a toy maker, that's somebody who is like, you know, Geppetto making Pinocchio in their garage. Whereas when we get our prototypes done, we are getting the manufacturer to make the components that don't need to be 3D printed, that are in their capabilities, and then putting 3D prints on top of it to mimic the product, right? So if there's a metal component, that metal component will be real. It's not going to be something that we have to buy off the shelf and put into our plastic component or a 3D print to make it look like a prototype. So a prototype is just an example. It is not a replica. It is not a manufactured item. It is a non-working, non-functional model. We work
for style and analysis only.
Style and analysis only.
Right.
Our 3D prototypes are based on our working with our manufacturer, and usually the way we do it is we put a production order in with the manufacturer. We give them a deposit so they know that there's an order at the end of this, and they provide us with working samples.
Pre-production
samples. And there's 3 stages, right? The first one I want to see is give me the parts, and then 3D print around it. If we feel comfortable with that, if there's changes that need to be done, let's get another one. And at that point, it's all because we don't want to cut into a tool, right? Once you invest in, let's say, $10,000 or $15,000 into a tool and it's wrong, that's a significant mistake.
Right.
And so to avoid that, we make sure that we 3D print our way through that process as much as we can. If there is a tweak on the tool, it's more or less to, you know, a little different finish. You know, maybe it's a texture we want to add to it so that when it pops out, it's done. But again, even then, we will get a 3D print. We will get a sample shot off that tool and an actual production sample so that we can evaluate it again, make sure that we're on track. Again, these are all things that just precautionary, that take a little time, but are so important.
It answers the question that we just, you know, mentioned, and that's
avoid the defects.
The defects, right? The more diligent you are in that process, and we we live by this, the less likely you'll have damaged product coming over. But again, in the event that you do, our manufacturers are top-notch quality manufacturers. They're large,
Right.
and they do the right thing by us and by our clients.
Yep. And again, we have one more checkpoint. We even send a third-party inspection team after all that. Once
Yep.
the production's done, they'll take a random sample, usually about 5 to 10% of whatever the order is, randomize them, check them, inspect them, and give us a report before we have anything shipped here.
Full-fledged report that
Yep.
that we hand
So
over.
if there's anything detrimental, we'll have the manufacturer fix it right then and there before they ship it. So again, that's a long, tedious process. That's how you answer that question. You're right.
Right.
Those are the steps we take to answer that question. That they're, how do you fix them? Well, don't have them in the first place.
Right. And that goes, the next question, what guarantees does an entrepreneur have from the manufacturer? And what if it has defects and the consumers are unhappy with the product? And I think we just answered that question. It's,
Yeah.
we don't have product coming here that the vast majority of consumers are unhappy with. I mean, you'll always have that 1 or 2 or 10 consumers that are never happy with anything. Yeah, we stand behind a product is, I guess, what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
And the manufacturer stands behind the product 100%.
Well, let's identify this, 2 complaints that a consumer can have, right? Consumer complain about the product sucks and it doesn't work and it doesn't function. That we've avoided.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in our court. Now, can a consumer come back and say, oh, I wish it was more this, or they come up with a pretty good idea as far as making a change,
Yeah.
right? That's where you iterate as a product company. And so, you have to understand that you've got to, once you go into a tool, you have to decide that there is probably a break-even point. You should not change on your next order. You should still continue to make the current number 1 product and go out and sell it and keep selling it until you have enough profit to make another tool or design another tool or get to the volume where the manufacturer, in our cases, will actually manufacture the tool if the volume orders are there.
Yeah.
And
Manufacturer
iterate.
tool, meaning there is no charge for the tool.
Correct.
Like if they literally, and quite frankly, if the tool wears out, which some do at 500,000 pieces to 1 million, you won't be paying for the second tool because the volume warrants them actually creating another tool. Because they want to be in the production business. They don't want to be in the tooling business.
Exactly. So again, just define, just so that you guys understand the difference is if there's improvements that can be made to a product, that's not a flaw. That is a consumer giving you good feedback, and we can change that down the road. It's, a lot of inventors like to knee-jerk react and like, oh, that's a problem. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. There's some problems that aren't problems. They're just suggestions, and you have to, yes, great suggestion to fix it. But again, the adage is if it's not broken, don't
fix it.
Don't
Right.
fix it. So.
So the next question, who will my point person be for the manufacturer? Is this your team or will I have other contacts outside of our team? The answer to that question is, yeah, we are the contact. We are the manufacturer of your product. So
Yep.
you will have a point person that you'll be speaking to on a regular basis about design, production, logistics. Again, that's what you're paying us to do is to manage that whole complex
Right, and
situation.
I'll speak to that because again, we're not representatives of a single factor. We have, I had Luke do the count the other day. There's probably about 70 to 80 different manufacturers that we represent, are responsible for. We have positions within those facilities that we have our own ability to assemble, hire people through them, and get our projects done. That's we have a lot of production that happens overseas to that point. So we are your manufacturer. And the point of reference is we might have one place, our tool makers that we have, we shop it around. It doesn't mean that I'm having the same factory do all the parts. If it's more cost effective to do it in 3 or 4 different places and ship it into one place to finalize it, that's how we get our competitive advantage by maximizing the relationships that we've developed over many, many years and getting the prices that we need so that we can launch at a very cost-effective rate.
Right.
So yeah, there's no requirement for you guys to fly to anywhere around the world or around the country to.
But you're more than welcome to fly to China.
You certainly are. And again, we're very cost competitive, and when we pride ourselves on saving all of our clients a lot of money in the production realm. And that's how we don't lose clients.
Right.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that because
It's very simple. We don't even have to stress
Yeah.
more on this subject. We've been manufacturing overseas longer than I
Right.
can remember. We would love to manufacture in the United States. Unfortunately, it's just not where consumer products are manufactured today. We have a fabulous partnership with a lot of great factories in China, factories that literally look like the Apple factory. I mean, you can eat off the floor. It's beautiful. There is no child labor challenges
Right.
at the factories that we work with. And again, the amount of money that we charge is more than made up in the savings that we're going to provide in the manufacturing component of of what we do here at 52 Launch. Without question,
Yeah.
our pricing is going to be the best.
Well, I like when you say that, you've spent 25 years making all the mistakes so our clients
Well,
don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Where's
so-
the product stored and how is it shipped? Another great question, something
Yeah.
that many people don't think about until later down the road, which really is a question for later, but we'll answer it now.
Yeah, it is. And look, there's also a strategy. And it really, I've been kind of working on this while you were away. And I'll give a little plug. My partner here, congratulations on your daughter going to Colby.
Oh,
You
that's
can see
awesome.
he's wearing a Colby College shirt
Yeah.
and spent a few days up there getting ready for the next chapter in his daughter's life. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
And I think, while you were gone, what we were focusing on, we're working on a master class and putting a big training piece together. I was tasked last week with how does a consumer make a decision as far as what to do, right? So I think where you store it's part of your strategy. So the big picture here is if you're ordering under 1,000 of something, you have to be very cost effective, and you're at the point where it's either because of budget and you've got to grow that 1,000 into 5,000 and into 10,000, and that's very respectable, and I'd say that's probably the majority of our clients.
Right.
But I'm going to encourage everybody to also take a look at this another way. We've had some clients, and they've taught us that they looked at, well, I need to order at least 10,000 of these so I can be profitable on my first order. And I respect that. And I actually think that is the smarter way to look at it, right? Because I think your fulfillment, where does it go? If you're looking at getting 500 pieces, then just put it in your garage.
Right.
I don't recommend that, but or your basement, or
Look at everybody has a different
Right.
budget, and anybody that orders 500, there's a reason they ordered 500, and we get that.
Yep.
It's not ideal, but it's better than doing nothing. So I mean,
Exactly.
we are still launching, and it's just going to take you a little longer to get to profitability, but that's fine. I mean, we're still here,
Yeah.
and that's what we want. But you're right. If you can order more, it'll be just that much faster to profitability. You'll be set up more as a business than still a side hustle, which obviously we prefer.
Well, I think all our
Right.
clients would, but like you said, it's just a matter of how do you get there,
Right.
So, and so part of that conversation is where do you store it? Again, we would recommend using a fulfillment center that will bring your entire product production order into the fulfillment center.
An e-commerce fulfillment center set up for e-commerce.
Exactly. That connects easily to Shopify. That will give you reports. That connects to all the analytics. That basically will also help us track and make sure everything goes out. That automatically sends the consumer that bought the product a notification with the tracking number. All the nice things that consumers expect today because Amazon has paved the way.
Yeah, and exactly. And of course, for all of you out there, you're probably familiar with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, two crowdfunding platforms. Again, the fulfillment industry has grown tremendously for that reason. The
Right.
e-commerce side of it, there's so many products coming to market through Kickstarter and Indiegogo that you needed a place to house the product and ship it out. And again, because there are so many companies now in this space, what does that mean? It means that it's extremely competitive. For you, the rates are going to be good. Again, you have to have it in a fulfillment company because you don't want to be going to your garage and shipping product out every day and trying to keep track of it. That's not how, I mean, you might save a couple pennies that way, but.
So again, highly recommend product goes into an e-commerce fulfillment center that is good at what they do, reliable, make sure things get shipped, can handle returns. Again, returns are just a policy you set. If you say, just send another product to a customer and tell them to throw the other one away. That's your cheapest, most effective way to do it. And,
Right.
some people will say, yeah, but I have a high ticket item. Well, it's actually high ticket items are even, you should do that even more because it's going to cost you more than the product to ship it back to you.
Right.
Right. So throw it away. We bought a bed 2 years ago for one of my kids, and the thing was completely defective, and they just sent another one and said, well, throw the other one out. Okay, well, so I was surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, for them, that was more.
Did you put that bed in the garage?
I did. It's in the guest room. All right, how are we doing on time? Okay, good. So what was our next question? Production orders.
Are there best practices for expedited and effective shipping? And I think we kind of spoke to this a little earlier. Shipping is crazy today. Hopefully it's just today. Well, not today, but this little time that we're in right now, post-COVID. It will get better. It's starting to get a little bit better now, but it's definitely been at its all-time high right now,
Right.
shipping. But again, even with ridiculous shipping rates, we have factored all of that in to the ultimate costs, and it still does not affect profitability for our clients. So
Right.
I don't know how else.
Well, so
to
there's
talk
two
about that.
there's two places where shipping is important, right? There's the large shipment from wherever you're manufacturing to wherever your warehouse is, and then there's the last mile shipping from the warehouse to the consumer that bought it.
Right.
And so I'm going to touch on this because this just comes up too often. Everyone, when you're doing your calculations, shipping takes a big chunk out of your profitability. And then so automatically you say, oh, well, I'm going to charge for shipping, which is the kiss of death online. And I'm going to tell you why, as someone who has been in sales my entire life. When it is hard enough to get a person to the buying decision point, and if you make them make the decision twice, you are shutting your sales down. And when I'll define that, they make a decision, they saw your ad, they get to your website, go, wow, this is exactly what I was looking for. They see the price, they click on it, they have bought. When they go to checkout and you hit them for $15 in shipping, you have now forced a second sales decision, which gives them an excuse to say, no,
It's the
thank you.
number one abandoned cart, a reason for abandoned carts.
Exactly.
Right.
So I would tell you to overprice your product and add free shipping before you lower your price and add shipping.
Right.
Make one decision. If someone is that impulsive to click on an ad online, get to your website, see a price, and decide to buy it, you're sold. Don't make it more complicated than that.
Right.
Okay. Add shipping. I mean, don't add shipping.
In other words, don't
Add
give
it
them
to
a
the
reason
price
to
of
change
the-
their mind.
Exactly. Don't give exactly. If you get anybody a reason to change their mind in purchasing the product, they will.
Right.
So yeah, that's the shipping cost. So again, for last mile shipping, you do have to understand what your shipping costs are going to be to build that in, and you have to be pretty accurate on that. So
Yeah, and it's a very important decision that we make while we're designing a product. It goes back to shipping.
Yep.
Actually, is part of the design of your product, because at the end of the day, if we've designed something that's too big, it's going to cost too much to ship.
well, and yeah, I'll give you a good example. Again, you weren't here this week, so we have a product that we helped develop. I'm not going to name it out because I don't want to feel anybody get embarrassed. But the size of the object that we were putting together was 9 by 12, which is perfect size for shipping. Well, somehow in their little board meetings, they decided they're going to go 14 by 20, and that instantly triples your cost of shipping. So little decisions like that again, when you're not aware of them, or when you are aware of them and you still make the decision, it's just, I question judgment. But in regards to understanding that, you do have to think about shipping first.
It may be the number one mistake that people make when they try to do it alone.
Yeah.
They don't think about that aspect of it. I mean, you know who I'm talking about early on, who had a beautiful tool that they created that costs a fortune to ship. Had they, had we manufactured that a different way, where it was in half
collapsible,
and it's collapsible or something,
adjustable in the center,
it would have been a much more cost-effective. I mean, you're talking about an item that sells for $60
that ships for almost 55 to 60.
exactly, and it could have shipped for 15. So
Right.
it's just a huge mistake. It's one of the things that you talked about. Some of the clients that wanted to hire you, they had all this stuff in their garage, and
Right.
you're like, I can't help you because it costs more to ship it than the product's worth.
Yeah, prior to the 52 launch, that's exactly. I was getting calls for people that said I had a product in my garage, and when you looked at the idea and what it solved, it's a great idea, great product idea, but it was executed poorly. It was too big. It
Right.
couldn't ship effectively. So, the focus on margin has to be there from the onset. And maybe this isn't on topic here, but I'm just going to say it so that we can clip it. Margin is your focus. Margin is, if I paid $5 to manufacture something and I can sell it for $25, that means I have a $20 margin. When you have margin, then you can, you have to make sure your product has enough margin so that you can cover the cost of the shipping to the client, the cost of acquisition of a client, the warehousing of your product. And that is it. Okay. After that, you have to be efficient in your, what I call after, there's other expenses that you have that are your operating expenses. But in terms of just evaluating a product, the product itself has to have that ability to pay for itself and sustain itself when anybody buys it, sells it, and that you can acquire a customer.
Right.
If you have enough margin in that, you can make a lot of mistakes afterwards and still recover, but you can also not make mistakes and do very well quickly.
Well said.
So, all right, make sure we save that clip because I can send that to a lot of people. All right, so what are the workflow? We just handled that one. Production orders. I mean, I guess we kind of talked about that. At some point, the production order really is based on someone's budget.
Right.
And we always respect that.
Yeah. It's a very important question that questions asked a great deal of time. Like what are the fees going to be after the accelerator program? What is that production going to look like? And it's a loaded question. We have no idea what, first of all, we haven't designed the product, so we have no idea what the product's going to cost. We can say, over a course of 200 plus clients that the average client spends, I believe it's $25,000 to $40,000 in production.
Yeah. So if there's tooling, it's usually 40. If there's no tooling, it can be about 15 to 20, depending on. I mean, look at it's real simple. Look at something you feel your product competes with. Look at the pricing, and I'd say, go with the number, maybe a third of that in terms of cost.
Yep.
Multiply that by however many you think you need to order. Right. So if you think your product's an $80 item, let's say that should cost $20 to $25. 25 times 1,000. There's your production cost.
Right.
If there's tooling that needs to go in that tooling is an asset, so you have to make a one-time investment in the tool. But here's the cool thing, and I think this is again where when you look at it as a bean counter, which I call accountants, so people that count the beans and make no emotional decision and don't understand that those little beans that you're counting is an asset. That inventory you're sitting on, if it can turn into, and not if, but you can see other people turn that $20 into $80, right? No one does that other calculation.
Right.
So what's 1,000 units at $80, right? That's so you're recouping and you're making money. That's how that business operates. And I think you've got to start, there's that point where, we all want to control expenses, but you also have to put your other hat on and say, okay, this is the potential revenue I am going to generate if I have this inventory in stock and can go and sell it.
Right. Then a lot of people ask us, well, how do I know I'm going to sell it? I mean, what are the chances of selling out, or am I going to be stuck with inventory? And generally speaking, generally it's a fact that we don't take on clients that have
Right.
products that we are not sure they're going to sell. I mean, it's our due diligence is done during the interview process of interviewing the client. The client interviews us probably more than once. And we make the decision, based on a number of reasons that if we choose to partner with you, we're very confident the product's going to sell.
Right. So I'll equate selling to fishing, right? So fisherman goes out every morning. Does he know he's going to catch fish that day? No, it's not a guarantee. It can be a bad day. But that fisherman, over time, will learn where to go fishing to improve his chances of it. And once they know where the fish are, they generally don't fail at fishing and coming home with fish, right? Like that's part. It's no different than sales. Sales isn't a question of if. Sales is a question of when. when I find that customer, when I find those target audiences, when I find where to place my product, when I find to be in front of the consumers that are going to buy my product, that is when sales will happen.
Right.
It's not an if, it's a matter of when. And when you know confidently over and over that you can repeat that process, that is when you become a business. And again, that doesn't happen overnight, but that doesn't happen over 10 years either. That happens, slowly over the first 3 months, 6 months, 10 months. And at that point, you should be able to ramp up and scale up a business pretty quickly and pretty effectively.
So the last question that she has under production is, have you ever had a product that's completely failed? If so, what went wrong? Great question.
Yeah, so I'm going to say no. I don't think we've ever had a product fail. I've had products that I've not been able to control as much of the end result that weren't perfect, but not failures.
Yeah. So you're saying probably. I'm saying 100%. We have not had a product that an inventor has hired us to manufacture a product that failed. 100% no.
Right. Yeah.
All the products have been manufactured beautifully. It really comes down to the second part, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have this is going to be the second segment that we do today is the marketing. But the marketing is as important as the production. I mean, some people say it's more important, but you can't market something that you don't have, so you got to produce it first. So I would say it's hand in hand. Product manufacturing and marketing, the two of them have to be symbiotic, and you have to spend money on marketing. If you're not doing that, it's literally like going out to the Sahara Desert and putting up a sign and hoping that someone miraculously finds you out in the middle of the desert. So you have to spend money on marketing, and unfortunately, we do have in our portfolio some entrepreneurs who simply don't spend the money on marketing. And if you're not going to do that, then it's going to be a very slow process to revenue.
I'll just make the statement. If you don't understand, you cannot be in a product sales business without spending money in marketing.
Right.
You can be in a service business and go and knock on doors and get referrals. Products need to be marketed.
Right.
You have to go out and spend money to make money. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Now, marketing is a revenue. It's money that comes back.
Right.
When you look at it, and you have margin, in your margin, you have to allocate a certain amount of money per sale or per unit. Coca-Cola, I don't know what it is in actual fact, but the rumor is, there was 20 to 25% of their product cost is marketing. I guarantee you it's probably double that, or it's probably half the product cost at this point in terms of how much money they spend in advertising and commercials to keep you buying their product, keeping them top of your mind. So if you're in the product business, which most of our consumer product clients are, you have to really expect that there's going to be part of your margin is going towards marketing dollars and advertising.
Right, which is called CAC.
Yeah, cost of acquisition, customer
already
acquisition cost.
Built into the price. That's the reason we have to be at a very, very low cost, so we can have that margin you spoke about earlier to handle shipping, cost of acquiring a customer, and fulfillment services. And again, it's what we do really well. But yeah, you're right. If you're out there and you think that you've got a product that's going to go into Walmart, I'm just going to let you know ahead of time that's not going to happen. Your product's not going into Walmart, not until it sells very well online. And when it sells well online, then you have a shot at getting it into a big box store.
Yeah, big box stores and even small. Look, even if you're a mom and pop retailer, they're not taking chances on stuff.
Right.
Every day that register has to ring at a certain number to pay the expenses. And if your product doesn't help them reach that goal, you're not going to be in there.
Right.
And again, so these buyers, they're not looking for, oh, that's a cool idea, I'm going to give it a try. There's no give it a try.
Right.
They're not putting anything on the shelf that isn't a proven commodity to their
They might give it a
funnel.
try if you guarantee the sale, which in a lot of cases you have to guarantee the sale of the product, or if it doesn't sell, you have to receive it back. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
The fact that you actually have to issue 45 to 60 day terms to these retailers is a big mistake when you can sell online and be paid instantly for your product. So again, we're about taking products to market through online. We're good at it, and a lot of great things happen after that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment altogether. So I think we're good on this one. So
well, there is one final segment. It's again, this question's asked a great deal as well.
Yes,
and will I have to quit my day job to do this? And the answer to that question is that we hope you have to quit your day job eventually,
That'd be a good
meaning
problem
that
to have.
we're selling so much that you can quit that day job that you probably don't like, and turn this into a full-time opportunity. However, most of our clients, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a big percentage. This is a side hustle. It's not their full-time career, and we manage it for them. So,
Well, I was going to say this way. If you just stuck online with a single product, you could get it to a point where you could quit your day job and go and enjoy your life because you still wouldn't be required to manage the day-to-day business
right.
of the online sales process. Once you have a team that's dialed in and know how to go fishing every day and find those customers that we need in the abundance that we need. So if we need 1,000 customers today and we know where they are, it just comes down to let's go get them.
Right.
And so you're not necessarily required to manage that. Now, if you want to grow your company, you want to add product lines, you want to do intellectual things to expand your brand and all those things, that is where you can now leave. But ideally, within 2 to 3 years, you could be at a point where this business with a single product can replace your day job that you're not managing.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of examples of that.
Great.
All right, so look at, I think that was a good show just in regards to answering a lot of questions that entrepreneurs ask us on a pretty regular basis, or questions that we've been working for many, many years to answer and get them resolved, and make sure that, the efficiency of getting your product from idea stage to market, and then the ability to ramp up quickly to get to sales and marketing and get all that figured out. That is exactly what we are built for.
Yep. And little shout out to Lisa D for coming up with these great questions. If you want to listen to the second half of this podcast, it'll be speaking more towards the marketing component. And I think that'll be next.
Yeah. So look if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please follow us, like us, share us, tell your friends about it. If you have friends that are entrepreneurial or are looking to get a product to market, please have them reach out to us. We do not charge money for conversations about getting your product or idea to market. We do the interview process ourselves. Dan and I would speak to you directly and just make sure that your product is the right one to bring to market, and go through the exact expectations of what you would need to do that. So again, if you have questions that you'd like us to answer, please leave comments, email us, do all those things that you need to do, and we'd be happy to answer any of the questions you guys have in regards to bringing your product to market. Thank you again for listening.
Yep. Have a great day.
Have a great day.